Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jess Vaccaro, and I will be your moderator for this session today, where WayUp and Yellow are hosting a program for you all to learn more about what to do to be successful in your first internship. Joining us today as our panelists, we have Joyce Lee from Adobe, John Pearson from Unilever, Coralie Segarra from Boeing, and Paige Uni from the National Basketball Association, also known as the NBA. What are some of the things that you've seen interns do before they actually walk in the door on their first day?
Definitely, I think before anything, it's okay to acknowledge your nerves, right? Like going in, this is a completely new experience, and that is okay. But the way that you can set yourself up for success is definitely by being proactive and preparing beforehand, right? So make sure that before you start, right, you're researching the company, right? Making sure that you are understanding what the values are, what the priorities are. If you are able to set up a meeting beforehand with your hiring manager, for example, to just talk about expectations, to talk about, the projects you'll be working on, right? That can definitely help alleviate some nerves. And also, part of being proactive is also setting your own goals and aspirations, right? Like, what are your priorities coming into this internship? What do you want to get out of it? And what is your ultimate goal? So definitely prepping beforehand.
Joyce, I thought you brought up a lot of great points. Take the mentality or take the idea out of your head that you should be afraid to ask questions. What I've seen in the past really work for candidates is from day one, they ask a trillion questions. And you are being placed in a role where maybe for the first time in your career, where your hiring manager does not think you're a subject matter expert, does not think that you're going to come in and know questions or know the answer to everything. And I've also seen a lot of interns throughout my career struggle because they have this pride factor where they're not going to ask questions because they don't want to come off as if they don't know what they're doing. You are an internship. You are not going to be a subject matter expert from day one. Our goal obviously would love to get you to that point where you build enough confidence within yourself to eventually be that subject matter expert. And then the second thing I would say is one of the few pointers I actually saw with a couple interns over the last couple of years was they reached out to on LinkedIn. So for instance, say you're looking at a Unilever marketing internship. If you type in on LinkedIn Unilever marketing intern, it's going to show up as a network of people that were previous marketing interns. Shoot them a message, say, hey, obviously, and to Joyce's point, do the research on the company, but this is a way you can ask for advice. There's multiple interns within each business. You might not have every single person reach out to you, but one or two might. And you could just say, hey, starting my internship in May, any advice you'd give me for day one? Believe me, that will go so far because they have the experience.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Why don't we send it to you, Coralie?
Thank you so much, Jess. And I'm just going to be peeing back on what Joyce and John were mentioning. First, acknowledging that you're nervous, but also acknowledging that you're going out of your classroom to a real life experience. And you may not know everything. And just like John mentioned, don't be afraid to ask questions, but specifically asking about what skills and knowledge you're going to be needing for this position, because that's your time to get prepared for what you're going to be working during the summer. So meeting with your manager, if you have any colleagues that you can have any information on interviews, highly recommend that. So you can ask them, hey, what things do you think would be valuable for me to maybe learn or get a refresh in my mind for me to be successful during the summer. That's something that I did myself when I was an intern, and I always recommend that for the interns that I hire.
Awesome. And let's round it out with you, Paige.
Yeah, I love all of these key points that we're pulling out. What I really like to think about when you're thinking about getting to your internship is establishing what you personally want to get out of the whole experience, right? So you're going to have metrics, you're going to have check-ins, you're going to have evaluations throughout your program. But as you enter this summer or whatever the term might be, thinking about what you want to achieve personally. So are there certain business acumen skills that you want to walk away with? Are there certain maybe even certifications that you'd like to walk away with? Just being clear on what your objectives are as you walk into the program will definitely help you show up really intentionally within your program.
What are some of the things that you've seen that have really stood out, that have wowed you in terms of maybe candidates going above and beyond what is asked of them during that internship process? Paige, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, totally. I love this question. I think my biggest thing when I watch interns really enter in intentionally, again, I'll say, is looking for opportunities to expose themselves to as much as they can. Back at a prior organization, we had an intern ask to shadow other interns with their teams, just so they could gain exposure to what other interns were doing throughout the summer. And we ended up creating a whole little swap program out of it. And it proved to be really successful because interns were able to see something a little different than they were doing in their day-to-day. But exposing yourself to events, go to networking events, go to company happy hours, even if you're not of age, go to them just to talk to other employees.
Love that. Coralie, let's kick it to you.
Someone told me a couple of years ago that your network is like your net worth. So make as many connections as possible. Ask for feedback. Sometimes we think, oh, I took this in a class a couple of months ago, I probably know everything. But no, like ask for feedback, ask for, mentorship, because you can get so much out of it, and maybe the goal is to get an offer for a full-time position, but you can get so many things out of, asking questions, making those connections, and just not being afraid to learn new things, explore new paths. Maybe you say, oh, I don't like as much this function, but you don't know if you like it if you haven't tried it. So just don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone.
The most successful interns that I've seen go throughout programs are the ones that are coachable and could take feedback. At the end of the day, you want to place yourself in an environment that is a team atmosphere. And you have to understand coming out of college, and again, I'm still 31 years old and I still sometimes struggle with the idea of getting feedback, because you take a lot of pride in your work and you want to show your manager that you are the best at what you do. But if you're not coachable and you don't take that feedback, it's not eventually going to work, because a hiring manager has to know that you're able to work well with others and lead by example. So I say, take that feedback during the internship, be coachable, and then more importantly, show your manager, show your team that, hey, I received this feedback, this is what I was able to do, and here was the end result. I think that is extremely important because it shows the initiative that you're willing to make and sacrifice for this program. And then do not be afraid to make a mistake. If you can understand that you need to be coachable, you need to learn from your mistakes, you're already 6 months, 7 months ahead of your peers.
The relationship with your team, it should also be a two-way relationship, right? Always be vocal, I empower you, right? Be encouraged to schedule coffee chats, to go to these happy hours, go to these team events, and just speak with people, right? About what you want to do. If there's anything that you can help them with, right? So again, just always being vocal. Feel free to host your own events, right? Like make a social with the rest of the interns, right? Like ask your team to go out for a team dinner, right? So I empower you all to take those steps to be very proactive.
I love that point, Joyce. Last question we're going to ask our lovely panelists here is what to do after your internship to either make connections or potentially land a full-time offer. And I know every company handles this a little bit differently. Some companies give offers before the internship's over, some do it after. So would love to hear from you all on tips and tricks for that. So let's start with Coralie.
So don't lose that opportunity to update your resume, put everything you learned, everything you did over there, and update your LinkedIn too. Put, some of the projects if the company allows you to share those. So yeah, don't forget to update those two things.
That's a really good point, Coralie. I would just double click on, make sure that you confirm with your manager or whoever during your internship. There is usually proprietary information or projects that you've worked on that they may not want you to publicly talk about. That is a great thing to confirm before you start using that information in interviews or on your LinkedIn profile. Let's kick it over to Paige.
I am a big proponent of writing thank you letters. There's something to be said about a handwritten letter. Every internship, every job I've had, I've written thank you letters. We like emails, we like digital, but hey, just take the 5 minutes, write the letter. But truly, I think it makes the world of difference. You really set yourself apart. And then I think also establishing those ability to use those references. So in the same vein, you're working on those interpersonal relationships, talk to your manager, say, hey, would you be willing to be a reference for me if someone were to need it? Would you be willing to write me a letter of recommendation if I were to need it? Just kind of setting those relationships ahead of time is always a good thing. And it gets people thinking about what they might say about you too. So yeah.
Love those. The art of a handwritten note never will fail. We'll go over to John.
So I think it's important for you at the end, even if you do not receive an offer, to go to your line manager, to go to your team and ask for feedback. Ask for, hey, what do you think I can improve on regarding my soft skills? What do you think that I can improve on regarding my hard skills? Is there a technical advantage or disadvantage that I had going into the internship? And take that feedback and run with it. Because you might find in your next internship, if you are able to adjust X, Y, and Z, that at the end of it, you may receive a full-time offer. Or going into your full-time job search, how can you have an advantage over the competition? I think is extremely important to realize.
So we're going to switch over to take some questions, and there are plenty of resources available both on WayUp and Yellow to help with your journey beyond what you've learned today. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll start our Q&A momentarily.